Hey, what's up guys? Little man with a big opinion here. Today's video, I'm going to talk about the footwear that I wear every single day. Uh, it'll be a combination of two different types of boots or a pair of hiking shoes that I have. But I'm a firm believer in you could have to start, dealing with a SHTF situation at any point throughout your day, regardless of if you're on, vacation or at a family gathering or anything like that. Uh, there's a handful of situations where I'm not wearing the type of shoes that I'm wearing, uh, and the main point of this video is 99% of the time, if I am at work or I am, doing grocery shopping, hunting, going for a walk, anything like that, I've stuck with this footwear. Before I go over the footwear, I will say, in combination with footwear, I think socks are important as well. I don't think they need to be as tall as the socks that I have that go all the way up to my knee. I just think it's really nice, especially in, the weather that we're in. Uh, but the advantages to the types of socks that I'm wearing is they're very breathable. Um, and, one thing that they were teaching us when we were doing rucks in the Army is, you can double sock and it'll help out with, blistering and things. But I firmly believe if you have good socks, then you don't have to double sock or anything like that. But the boots that I have uh, are a pair of 511. I believe they were like $110, $120. Uh, and I have, combat boots like this for, multiple different scenarios. What I have found with these ones in particular is the ankle support, the high ankle support is extremely thick on these, um, which makes them very good for being on your feet a lot, having, that good solid support. And if you have to do any type of hiking, these are a solid pair of boots. Um, I've weighed these boots because, you know, I didn't think about the weight of boots, when I was, purchasing different ones. But altogether, they weigh just under a pound, which for some people, the weight of their shoe could mean a lot. But I would consider these fairly lightweight. Uh, the other nice thing about these boots uh, is the shoelaces on them are already, paracord shoelacing. It's not just regular shoelaces. So I thought that was, an added bonus. If you absolutely needed to use, the shoelaces, then you've got that extra asset. Okay. Uh, so I've talked about the main purpose of having a good pair of boots. They don't have to be combat boots like this. They could be hiking boots, but their major advantage over a pair of tennis shoes is that extra ankle support. Uh, Especially for myself, my left ankle, I just about destroyed it. Foot went in hole, foot made a 90-degree bend, tore a bunch of ligaments. Um, and just recently, my wife's going through uh, a broken arm, and she is already using the arm for small tasks 6 weeks afterwards. And I believe with my ankle, at the 6 week mark, I was off crutches and in a boot, where I did another 6 weeks in a boot, and then I had a ankle brace that was another 8 to 12 weeks. Uh, so muscles take much longer to heal than broken bones. So if you have any issues, with your feet, your ankles, things like that, this is a good thing in general. Um, if you are doing prolonged activities where you're carrying excessive weight, where you could be carrying other people, you could be carrying, you know, even a simple backpack. I weighed this the other day. It's got my school stuff. It's got my get home kit. Uh, I've weighed it with my two 32-ounce bottles that I got in there. And, this backpack is coming with me from work. Uh, so, you're at work 5 days a week, you know, at least for me, 40 hours a week. This needs to make it home with me as well. This thing weighs about 16 pounds. Uh, Granted, it's only a half mile home from work, but I feel a lot more comfortable doing it in hiking boots or combat boots than I do a regular pair of tennis shoes. And for, I'd say, most people in general, they do not live within half a mile of their home. You're probably having to prepare for you know spending at least one day getting home. That's making the assumption of 30 miles or less, which that's a really big goal if you're going to do 30 miles in one day. uh, but many of us work 45 minutes to an hour away from home, and that's going to be 2 or 3 days before you can get back to you know your main preps. And you could have all of the awesome gear in the world. You could keep a tent stored with you and all the food you need to get home, but having the right type of shoes is going to make a major difference. uh, Now, granted, I think shoes are plan B. Plan A is obviously taking your vehicle and using that to get home, because vehicles can go, you know, way faster than 30 miles in a day. Uh, but it's a pretty good backup plan. Uh, the other nice thing about having, boots like this is you're one step closer to starting to train. Uh, I've mentioned it a lot on my channel that we're getting very, very close to over half of Americans being overweight. Last time I checked, we're at like 48.2% of adults in the United States being overweight. Uh, so the prepping things that you need to be doing, you need good footwear. Uh, I could expand this video to talk about, more in depth, the kind of socks, the kind of pants, the kind of clothes in general that you want to wear. But I think your feet and the um, health of your feet is going to be one of the most important things. That is your way home in some instances. And what got me thinking about this, I was rewatching, some of the Doomsday Prepper show. It's kind of enjoyable to watch every, year or so. And one of the people that they got on the show lived in Houston. And her idea of prepping is, I have a bug out bag. It was a like a 60-liter hiking pack. And I think the thing weighed like 70 or 80 pounds. And her plan was to hike out of the city to, it was either a family member's house or a national forest. I think it was a national forest. And her mileage to get there was like 65 miles. And she went very in depth talking about the footwear that she had to do this. And, once a month, she would go on a, 15, 20 mile, she called it a hike. People in the military call it a ruck. Whatever you want to call it, that was extremely impressive of her. And, the footwear that she had chosen, it was a fairly nice pair of hiking shoes. But that kind of goes into the next thing when it comes to talking about, getting the footwear that you get. And this is something I 100% believe in you trying on before you purchase. Uh, the cowboy boots that I wear at special occasions and stuff are an 8.5. This brand of boot, I don't know why, but I wear this in a 9. And, I tried on an 8.5. I tried on a 9.5. I'm pretty sure I tried every size between 7 and an 8. And this one hit the sweet spot. Um, Other pairs of boots I've had in the past, like the Oakley brand boots, they are extremely lightweight. Like, I think both boots might weigh half a pound. The fabric on them is extremely thin, and from the recommendations from my friends, those boots are almost as form fitting as your socks. And the pair that I have in that are 7.5. Because you want that really nice tight fit, because their high ankle support is almost like wearing another pair of socks with extra stitching in it. But you get your footwear, and then you need to break it in. And this goes for everything unless it's like a pair of Crocs. But especially your boots or the tennis shoes that you choose to wear, for your prepping. The old way the military does it is you wear your boots in the shower, you get them wet with hot water, and you leave them on your feet until they dry. I think that's perfectly acceptable if you buy a pair of, standard issue combat boots. With other boots, I think the best way to break them in is to just break them in. And I would say between 50 and 100 miles put onto those shoes. They're pretty well broken in. Not 50 to 100 miles in one sitting. Uh, you know, if you're carrying any amount of weight with a brand new pair of boots, I'd keep it to 25 pounds or less. That way you're not rubbing, hot spots, getting blisters, things like that. If you, go 25 pounds or higher, then it's probably going to suck. Same thing with the mileage. I wouldn't do anything higher than 6 miles. I think the sweet spot on the very first time is going to be 4 miles. So 4 miles, 25 pounds, and I think a good solid goal would be an hour and 20 minutes. I'd say, and you're doing a mile every 20 minutes. That's your starting point. From a physical standpoint, I think it's a good starting point, but for breaking in a new pair of shoes, I think it's a solid, starting point. you go much slower, and you know you're going to add more time on your feet with that weight and increase hot spots or blisters, and you go much faster than that, and you're going to increase your chance of hot spots or blisters. You hit that 50 to 100 mile point in your pair of boots, I think they're pretty well worn in, and then you can start up in the mileage, you can start up in the poundage. If before you hit, I'd say 25 miles, and something just doesn't feel right, like, you've got your 25 pounds, you do a mile, and your feet are just killing you, and you're somewhat physically active, like almost bare bones, and you've already got a blister, I would make the educated guess that the footwear you have is either too loose or too tight. So, depending on how you tie them up, retie them, keep going, but you know, don't push yourself to the point that you're hurting yourself. There's a good possibility that you got the sizing off, uh, and there's nothing much else to it. Within that time period, you should be able to take them back, explain you got the wrong size, and you got to go through the trying on process again. I really don't know a good way to explain, trying on a pair of shoes. They got to fit right for the individual person, and a 9 is a 9 in this brand, a 9 is a 9 in that brand, but some footwear might fit better with different brands. But this video is getting long enough. What are your thoughts on this? Let me know in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this video, like it. If you enjoyed what I'm doing with the channel, then hit the subscribe button. And lastly, if you had a friend or family member that would benefit from the discussion that we have in these videos, then share the video with them. And with that, I'll catch you in the next one.